Guten Tag, dear friends of YouTube. Today we will speak from the USSR or the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics.
The Soviet Union was a very powerful country. The Soviet Union was composed of today's Russia, Poland, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and most of Asia.
Its story begins in 1916, in middle of the First World War, when the King Nicholas II made a peace with Germany. Then the Russia's economy fell down, and that's the reason why lots of exiled politicians like Vladimir Lenin could enter again to Russia. Lenin created a politician mass of workers. This group made two revolutions, the Revolution of October and February. That caused a civil war of two teams, the White Russia and the Red Russia. After a long war, the Red Russia won. Then they signed with other countries the Union of them, and in 1922 the Soviet Union was created. 2 years later, Lenin will die, and Joseph Stalin took their power.
In 1939, the Germans invaded Poland and the Second World War started. The Soviet Union was not involved in the first part of the war because they had a pact, but they had conflict with Japan named the Sino-Japanese War. In 1940, France is conquered and the Soviet Union was in next Hitler's master plan. Then, in 1941, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, so USA entered to the war. USA and UK helped the Soviet Union. In 1941, Hitler starts the Operation Barbarossa. The invasion to the Soviet Union starts. The Red Army was very disorganized, and the U-boat of the Germans destroyed the supplies in the sea. Stalin was very angry. He said that the Western countries don't want to help the USSR. The Germans found the mortal Russian weapon, the Winter. The Germans' planes and tanks get freezed and the Russians strike back. The Germans were so close to conquer the USSR. Later, in 1942, the Germans tried to take the city of Stalingrad, but it was impossible. The Battle of Kursk. In 1943, the Germans were in retreat and they did a last offensive named the Operation Citadel. The Germans and the Soviets made two new weapons. By the side of the Germans, they made the Tiger, a new tank, and the Soviets made the T-34. Then the General Zhukov had a great plan to win. So this general converted the small town of Kursk into a fortress, and after a long battle, the Germans lose. That was the last offensive of the Germans in the Oriental Front. Time later, in 1945, the Russians take the capital of German Empire, Berlin, and the World War in Europe finished. After that, the Russians defeat the Japanese in Manchuria and the Japan surrendered and the World War II finished.
The Cold War. After the World War, the USSR takes great part of Europe. They divide Germany in two parts, the Western and the Eastern Germany. In 1950, the Korea War starts. The USSR helps North Korea and China because there are common aims. But in 1953, the war finishes, and in the same year, Stalin died and Nikita Khrushchev takes their place. In the 1960s, the space race starts. The Russians send the first satellite, and the Americans send the first living thing to the space. Later, the Soviet Union sent the first human to the space. After Mikhail Gorbachev arrived to the power, but it was a bad moment. The Russian economy failed, and in 1989 the Berlin Wall falls, and in 1991 the end of the Soviet Union arrived.